Tender and moist, sweet and delicious, winner winner, Italian cream cake made from a box cake mix. Welcome to Mount Mama Family Lifestyle. My name is Mary. I am wife to my hunka handsome husband Jeff for over 36 years. I am mom to 6 grown wonderful children and mom to 3 wonderful in-laws. And I am grandma to soon to be 8 precious grandchildren. It's a wonderful and fearful life. I like to share topics like faith, food, fashion, function, and fun. I've been craving Italian cream cake ever since I saw a recipe called Melt in Your Mouth Italian Cream Cake by Sugar Spun Run. I've been wanting to try her recipe, but I live at a very high altitude, almost 7,000 feet, and I've had trouble with cake recipes, like disasters. I'm the only one in my household who likes coconut, and I figured it would take me several tries at adjusting her recipe to get it just right. And I just wasn't willing to make all those recipes when I would be the only one who would be eating those cakes. But then I thought maybe I could make a box cake mix version of her recipe. A few years ago, I finally figured out how to make a box cake mix at this altitude. So I was reasonably sure that I could make it on my first try. And I did. My Italian cream cake made from a box cake mix is a success, and it tastes just as good as it looks. This cake is everything I hoped it would be, and definitely calorie worthy. I based my recipe on Sugar Spun Runs, and I will refer to and link her video. I used 8-inch cake pans. I only had 2, so I reserved about 1 3/4 cups cake batter for the third cake. I always spray my pans with vegetable spray, and then add wax paper to cover the bottom of the pans. This makes for easy, no-break cake removal. I followed the box mix instructions for the egg white recipe using water and oil, and I added an extra egg white to adjust for this altitude. So I used a total of 5 egg whites. Then I added 1 teaspoon almond extract, 1 cup sweetened coconut flakes, and 1 cup finely chopped pecans. I also added an extra tablespoon of water because I thought with the added coconut and pecans, the batter needed it. I baked the cakes at 325 for 17 minutes and then placed an air-baked cookie sheet directly underneath the pans for another 2 minutes. This allowed the middle of the cakes to keep baking, but kept the bottoms from getting overdone. So a total of 19 minutes baking time at this altitude worked beautifully. I let the cakes cool in the pan for 5 minutes before removing them to a cookie rack to cool completely. Then I baked the third cake. This worked perfectly at this altitude. If I was at a lower altitude, say in Missouri, I would have omitted the extra egg white and I would have set the oven temperature for 350 instead of 325. Now, if I wanted to, I could have used canned cream cheese icing. I have used it previously and it is very good, but for this time I wanted homemade. If I had chosen the store-bought route, I think I would have needed 2 cans. For my homemade cream cheese icing, I used Sugar Spun Run's recipe exactly, and it tastes amazing. Mwah! However, I did not use all of it. I had 4 cups left over. If I was just icing the cake and omitting the extra frosting decorations, I think I could have made a half a recipe work. With the extra piping around the bottom of the cake and the rosettes on the top of the cake, I think I would need 2/3 to 3/4 of her recipe. I piped a thin bead border on the bottom and I piped rosettes on the top. Then I added roughly cut pecans and coconut to the rosettes. I will be bringing this cake to potluck fellowship dinner at church, and I wanted to make it very clear that there are nuts and coconut in this cake. You could totally omit the extra decorated borders and just add coconut and nuts to the top of this cake, and it would still be just as delicious and still present very well. If you don't know how to cake decorate and have no intention to learn, you could pick up a few supplies and learn just a few simple and easy border techniques, and this would take your homemade cake presentations to a much higher level with very little cost and effort. I highly recommend doing this if making a lot of cakes is in your future. This cake was perfection. Well, almost. Next time, I will use the same amount of icing on top of each layer of cake, but on the sides, I will use less. I am a real fan of sweets. I like to say the secret to a good cake is to get icing in every bite. But there was just too much icing, even for me, on the sides of this cake. Next time, I will slightly naked ice the sides. This means a thin layer of frosting, thin enough where you can see through the frosting to the cake in some places on the sides of the cake. The top and middle layers I would ice in the same fashion. Now this would be perfection. This cake is a winner. I definitely give it a 10 out of 10 or 5 stars in my book. Thanks for watching and please subscribe.